Don't forget, guys, like, share, subscribe, hit the bell. You know it makes sense. Come on, you Irons. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, whatever time of day it is, wherever you're watching this around the world. Welcome to Pulls from Iron, and I am Gatesy, your host. I just wanted to do this recording about Jesse Lingard. There's been a bit more murmurings about Jesse Lingard and possibly coming back to the club. Possibly in January, maybe in the summer of 2022. Obviously, Jesse Lingard has been a name that's been connected with West Ham for the best part of a year now. He obviously came into the club in the January transfer window of last season, earlier this year. And he obviously came in, hit the ground running. He scored 9 goals and I think it was 5 assists in 16 appearances. And obviously managed to get himself back into the England squad. Absolutely fantastic impact that he made, and he was a key part in the reason why we ended up getting qualified for the Europa League this season. Now, obviously he didn't sign for us as a lot of people thought he might, myself being one of them. I'll put my hands up there. Obviously, since then he's become something of a polarizing character, it seems. There's just as many people that hold the opinion that I hold, that actually this is a player that we really should be looking to get in through the door, need absolutely strengthen our playing squad, possibly even improve our starting 11. Who knows? The debate is there to be had on that one. But certainly he would fundamentally improve the quality of the squad. But there's just as many people that hold a slightly different point of view, and I hope he'll forgive me, but Duke, my channel co-creator, is one of them. And he's very much of the opinion that yes, Jesse Lingard did a fantastic job for us whilst he was at West Ham, whilst he was wearing the claret and blue. He scored goals, he got assists, he made a stunning impact. He doesn't shy away from that, but he's very much of the opinion that that was then. He had an opportunity to come to us. He didn't take it. So, quite frankly, we move on. And I kind of get why that might be the narrative, the thought process of some supporters. But I fundamentally disagree. I think that having a player of that quality and literally turning your nose up at him is cutting off your nose to spite your face. Now, I know that there will be some people that will be saying, but would he get into our starting 11 now? Obviously, last season when he came into the squad, Saeed Benrahma was still bedding in. He was still acclimatising. So it was his place that was vulnerable when Jesse Lingard walked through the door. And he was the guy that probably, in terms of his playing minutes, probably suffered. Probably Jared Bowen to a lesser extent as well. And this season, obviously, Benrahma stepped it up. Bowen stepped it up. Fornals is, well, he's undroppable in my opinion, in terms of his work rate, and not just his work rate, but his goal scoring's come on this season. He's a fantastic passer of the ball, and for me, I think that he's one of the first names on the team sheet, Pablo Fornals. But so obviously now this season is different from last season, because obviously you look and you go, well, where would Jesse Lingard fit into the starting 11? But for me, it's okay, maybe he does start from the bench, but he would strengthen the bench. Also, don't forget, in January, the start of next year, January 2022, there's the African Cup of Nations. Algeria are the champions of that particular tournament. So Saeed Benrahma is very, very likely to be at that tournament if picked, which it's fairly likely he will be. So we will be missing Saeed Benrahma for a period of time. Now, as far as I'm concerned, Jesse Lingard would come straight into the first 11 for me. I think he would come in and he would fit seamlessly. We know that he can operate with the players around him because he's done it before. He was well liked by all of the coaching staff. He was well liked by the playing staff, and the fans really took him to their hearts. So I've got no problem with Jesse Lingard coming in. And I know that there are some people that would be, well, he's going to be 29 next month, so is he a little bit long in the tooth? Well, I use the old adage, it's not the age, it's the mileage. And if you look at the mileage for a guy that is just short of his 29th birthday, he's actually not got an awful lot of mileage. Because if you compare him to Declan Rice, now Declan Rice is 22 years of age. Declan Rice has played approximately 160 career matches for club teams. Jesse Lingard has played approximately 280. So there's only a difference of 120 career matches in club football. And yet there is an age differential of approximately 7 years. So in terms of the mileage that Jesse Lingard has got on the clock for a guy of his age, it's actually not that much. So he's probably still got an awful lot to offer. Probably, he's never had a bad injury. And there are some people, and again, I'll use Duke as an example. And Duke was like, he had the opportunity to come here. He didn't take it. So as far as I'm concerned, that's me done with him. But I take my West Ham specs off for a minute. I try to take a step back and I try to be quite fair and open-minded about analysing the situation for what it was from Jesse Lingard's perspective. He's been at that club since he was, 7 years of age. He's now 28 going on 29. So he has been there for 21 going on 22 years, basically. And he's a Manchester United fan. He's from Warrington. He's from close to the Manchester area. And obviously all his family are from there. And obviously he comes to West Ham. He hits the ground running. He goes back to Old Trafford. Does he come back to West Ham? Does he stay at Manchester United? If Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has turned around to him and said, you've got a chance, he's probably sat there and thought, do you know what? I loved it at West Ham, but I need to try and give this another go because this is my home club. This is the club that I've been with since I was a child. And whilst he's mulling that over, what happens? In walks through the door Cristiano Ronaldo. Now, not only is this one of the premier stars of the modern era, possibly one of the greatest players of all time that's just walked in through the door, that Jesse Lingard has got an opportunity of working with. But this is Jesse Lingard's hero. There's a photograph of, in Ronaldo's first spell at Old Trafford, there's a photograph of a young Jesse Lingard looking up to Cristiano Ronaldo. So he hero worships this man. Now, I can completely understand the pull that working with one of your idols would have, even if he knew that Ronaldo actually, in terms of playing time, in terms of the position that he would occupy on the pitch for Manchester United, he's probably another obstacle, and there was already a few obstacles in his path in the case of Mason Greenwood, Jadon Sancho, Marcus Rashford. These are all players that can play in a similar area of the pitch to Jesse Lingard. But despite that fact, I can understand that he would have there would be a certain allure about working with one of the greats of the modern era and fundamentally his hero at his home club. So I don't have any ill will, I don't have any negative feeling towards Jesse Lingard for wanting to give it another go. But fundamentally it hasn't worked out for him. I think, if my information is correct, he's made one Premier League start. And we all know who that was against, don't we? Yes. He's had approximately, I think it's 154 minutes of competitive action so far this season. So, fundamentally, it hasn't worked out for Jesse Lingard this season. Now, his contract is up in the summer, and the story is that he could be available in the January transfer window for approximately £10 million. The story is that Manchester United are keeping their fingers crossed that another club may come in for him, and that club being Newcastle United, who, as we all know, because of the takeover that's happened from the Saudi Arabian consortium, that they've got an awful lot of money to sort of spend, and they're in a bit of trouble, and they need to try and get some quality through the door to help their plight. So they're keeping their fingers crossed that Newcastle United might come in and potentially bump that £10 million price up a little bit, and spark a bit of a bidding war between Newcastle and West Ham. Now, whether that comes to pass, who knows? That will play out during the month of January. But as far as I'm concerned, I think that Jesse Lingard, get him through the door. He would improve our playing squad. And it's not just a game in Premier League in the year 2021 going into the year 2022. The Premier League is not just about the starting 11. It's about the squad. It is about rotating. Now, I know that obviously our starting 11 for most of this season in the Premier League has pretty much been the same. There's been the odd player that's dropped out, like Vladimir Tufal, and he's been replaced by Ben Johnson. But by and large, the 11 has been pretty much the same week on week. But Jesse Lingard would be an absolutely brilliant substitute to bring on in games that are tight. I'll paint a scenario. If Jesse Lingard had been on the bench for either of our two defeats, one of which was to Manchester United where he scored the goal, but let's just pretend for a moment that Jesse Lingard didn't play in that game for Manchester United, and that he was on the bench for West Ham, that the scores were locked at 1-1, or indeed that we went 2-1 down in the last minute, and you had an option of bringing a player like that on, even just for the last couple of minutes, to possibly turn that game around. Or the Brentford game, again, game was finally balanced, locked at 1-1 going into the final embers of the match. He would have been an absolutely brilliant substitute to bring on for the last 20 minutes or so and be a game changer. So, just because maybe he wouldn't get into our starting 11, and I've heard that argument trotted out so many times, well, who would he replace? Who would he get in for? He wouldn't get in our starting 11 now. Maybe he wouldn't. Right now, maybe he wouldn't. But he'd be a very good impact substitute to use in tight games. He can play in a number of positions. He can play wide left, he can play wide right, he can play as the number 10, he can play as a false 9. So he has a great deal of versatility. He could give respite to Antonio. He could give respite in an indirect sense to either Declan Rice or Thomas Soucek, because I think he could play on the left-hand side, and Pablo Fornals could drop back and work alongside either Declan Rice or Thomas Soucek and give the player that he's replacing a rest. So him being there offers, in my opinion, an awful lot of scope for players to maybe get a tactical breather at certain stages of a season. So, and as I say, don't forget that Ben Rama will be going to the African Cup of Nations in January. So that he would be straight in there, and I'm sure he would have an impact in scoring goals, creating assists, and hopefully keeping the positive momentum that West Ham have got this season in the Premier League and in Europe as well. That's my opinion. I really don't think that we should be turning our nose up at Jesse Lingard, and if he is available for £10 million there or thereabouts in the January transfer window, then in my opinion we should absolutely look to try and make that deal done. The word is that he is now open to the move. He now realises that his days at Manchester United, Old Trafford, his boyhood club, are done, and that he needs to seek a move to pastures new. And what better place could he come than a place where he really came, and if we're being honest, probably had a period of time where even he looks back on and says, that was my purple patch in my career. What better place for him to come than London Stadium? What better place for him to be strutting his stuff than in the Europa League and the Premier League for West Ham, and being managed by David Moyes, a manager that has got the very best out of him, and I'm sure could do it again. Anyway, that's my thoughts. As always, the comment section is below. Please, I'd be really interested in this one to hear people of both sides of the argument. People that would like Jesse Lingard in, and people that actually think that he's had his opportunity and no, we need to move on. Because I think that sort of like, I can understand both points of view, but fundamentally I think that I fall on the side of we need to get our squad as strong as possible and have as many strings to our bow as possible for different situations as and when they present themselves in the Premier League and in Europe. So please let me know your thoughts. Comment section below. Please get stuck in. And as usual, guys, don't forget, drop a like on the stream, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon, and please share us onto your social media platforms to keep our word out there and spreading. Thank you very much indeed for your time and support. And there's only one thing left to say. Come on, you Irons.